But I just remember this tunnel vision, and I called it that. Like I had this tunnel vision. Like I knew exactly where things were at that moment because I was in an element where there were zero distractions. All right, welcome to this week's episode of Mindset Mastery. I am your host, Isaiah Melendez. I'm the director here. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm the director here of business development at AZ & Associates. I work very closely with AZ Araujo. Those of you guys who are watching or listening, I should say, whether that be iTunes, Spotify, or whatever podcast platform you have. So, I wanted to talk about a couple things. Well, really one thing this morning and share a little bit about my experiences here at the brokerage as well as my experience in the military. For those of you guys who don't know, I served 8 years in the Army, 5 years at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 3 years at Fort Riley, Kansas. 3.5 of those 8 years, I was deployed to Iraq. I did a 1-year tour. My first deployment was over in Balad and Tikrit. We kind of moved around a bit back in 2005. And then I went again 2005 to 2006. And then from 2007 to 2008 for a year and a half, actually, because we had that day. I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie called Stop Loss. And that's where basically you were in the middle of a deployment. It's a 1-year deployment, and they change your orders and they would extend it. So that happened to a few units out there. That was I was one of them actually. So we were out there for close to a year and a half, not just quite. It might have been like a year and 5 months, something like that. So from 2007 to 2008, and then back in 2011 to 2012, I went to Afghanistan. And I had a lot of experiences over there. Some that weren't so great, but some that were great that I would say have really molded me to be the person that I am today. And, I'm grateful for them. Both the good ones, the bad ones, if you want to call them bad ones. I know we can, it's all about perspective, but I want to talk about tunnel vision. It's one of these things that I remember happening in Afghanistan specifically. Iraq was bad. When I say bad, I mean there was a lot of issues that we went through. Obviously, there was a lot of combat. There's a lot of fighting going on and things like that. But the main difference between Iraq versus Afghanistan is that Iraq would be few and far between where you would have attacks. And though they would be big, right? And what I mean by big is like you'd have an explosion or there would be an attack. It would be from a distance. So they would try to shoot mortars. They would try to shoot RPGs. They would set up bombs on the roads, those kinds of things. They were more distant, right? Afghanistan, it was every day, almost every single day, there was a firefight, even if it was for like 5 seconds, and someone was shooting at you from outside of the post, or if you were driving or patrolling, there was something almost every single day. Obviously, some weeks, were a lot rougher than others. But for the most part, I mean, you can count on getting shot at. You can count on something happening. You can count on some kind of something happening in Afghanistan, right? They even have a season out there, right? And they call it the fight season. And it's during the summer. It starts during the spring and goes all the way through the summer and to the fall. But Al-Qaeda is primarily in Iraq, right? And then the Taliban is primarily in Afghanistan. And the Taliban are fighters. I mean, I don't know if you guys know a lot of history about them. They're known as, before they were called the Taliban, they were the Taliban freedom fighters, right? They fought to go and protect their country. They fought to go and actually, they fought against Russia, right? These fighters, before they were called Taliban, they were fighting with Genghis Khan. They were fighting, for centuries, right? So naturally, these people of Afghanistan are fighters, right? They use the same exact mountain caves that they would use back then, hundreds or thousands of years ago, to using to today. Like that's how organized these guys are, right? But they're warriors. I mean, anybody who's fought against the Taliban will tell you that these guys are not afraid. Okay, and there's a certain level of respect that you can have, I think, when you're a warrior yourself. And I say that because I remember there was an experience that I had when I was in Afghanistan, and I got it. I went through this experience almost every other week. And I remember where things would get really intense. Like, we'd get blown up, right? And we were caught in a choke point. I remember this one specific moment. And four vehicle convoy. And we went to go visit one of our other posts, little outposts and everything. And we were just leaving because we were helping them out. And it swirls, right? Like this road swirls, kind of like a exaggerated S. Right. And when you have this exaggerated S and you have four vehicles going through there, you know, you're limited to how fast you can go, number one. Number two, at a certain point of that S, three of the four vehicles kind of line up together where it's kind of an easy target and you can't move. And I remember the first vehicle, I remember, what's his name? Johnson was his name, right? My lead gunner. He just pops off a few shots of his 50 cal. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? You know, so I'm the convoy commander. I'm like, hey, what's going on? And he goes and he talks about, he's like, hey, you know, we're getting hit. And I didn't see anything, but he saw somebody getting ready to shoot an RPG. And luckily he got that. And then all of a sudden we were getting shot at from the left side, from the right side, from the front, except the rear, right? So they kind of had like this 270 perimeter on us. And we were kind of stuck there because we couldn't really move that fast. So we were at a choke point. And I just remember like hearing these bullets fly, like seeing these bullets fly in slow motion. I didn't get to see where this guy was shooting the RPG from, right? And RPG stands for rocket propelled, you know, grenade. And they had a little bit more structured, organized ones, but it was like I knew where he was at, and I could hear them, and I can hear them talking. I knew exactly where they're at. Everything was moving in slow motion, you know. And I had this like, it's really hard to explain this kind of feeling and this experience, but it really was like the movies, like where everything was in slow motion, and you can kind of see something like in the Matrix where you could see everything happening at every single time. You could almost smell, you know, outside of your vehicle. You can see what your guys are doing in the other vehicles. This unnatural experience, you know. But everything was very clear. And we were able to get out there. We you know, took care of ourselves. I was very proud of my unit. You know, we had very little casualties, very few Purple Hearts. My specific platoon, we had zero fatal, you know, casualties. So, and I was very proud of moments like that. But I just remember this tunnel vision, you know, and I called it that. Like I had this tunnel vision. Like I knew exactly where things were at that moment because I was in an element where there were zero distractions. Right? Zero distractions. The only thing that I was concerned about is getting back safely and protecting ourselves, right? There were no distractions. And if you guys know anyone in the military and they've deployed, you know, they'll tell you, hey, you know, even though it was kind of crazy out there, it was peaceful in a sense because you didn't really necessarily have to deal with the things that you have to deal with over here in society. But there were zero distractions that went on, you know, and it's amazing the kind of focus that you have when you're in your right element and doing the right thing and something that you had prepared for and that you had trained for and that you created systems for, how it comes together. And I remember I'd be over the radio, you know, I'd call back to the talk, right, and let them know, hey, this is what's going on. And I'd reach out to my guys, okay, all right, we just need to return fire. Make sure that, you know, you eliminate the threat. And, you know, make sure you guys work the left side, make sure you work the 3 o'clock, make sure you work the 6, and we're working, okay, let's go and push out. And everyone after every one of these times that we were attacked, I'd have people like, why are you so calm on the radio? Like, why do you, like, you sound like, and I'd remember they sound like, you sound like a jazz radio host, like, just because it was very like calm. It was very stoic is what they would use, right? Very, very controlled. And it was because I knew where I was at and I was in my element. Nothing was a surprise, right? And everything was in slow motion. So my heart rate almost like dropped, in the sense of like where I was calm, right? And I had this tunnel vision that I said. And I wanted to talk about this because when I got out of the military, I had a really hard time transitioning into the civilian life. And I remember coaching here. For those of you guys who know, like I've coached here. I think I started back in November 2016. Yeah, because it was actually my birthday. So it was November 7th, 2016. That was the first time I coached out here. And I remember it was a big feat. Like there was AZ had entrusted me to to go and train, start a coaching group, from scratch, him and I like working together, to build this coaching group and to have this big vision, right? We had this goal. And in this goal was like, all right, we're going to have this training platform where we're really going to bring these agents and whether a brand new agent or a veteran agent, come into this coaching program. We're going to show them exactly what they need to do. We didn't know where to start. And for those of you guys who know or who were part of it back in the day, we called it AIT, which was from the military. It's called Advanced Individual Training. And, we did really good actually in a really short amount of time. I think in that very first year, we did just over $70 million in transactions. I think we had maybe a little over 40 people in the coaching group. And it was really successful. That first year, that second year, we really picked up as well. I don't remember all the numbers, but I remember right around the middle of the third year, sometime in 2018 or 2019, I got distracted. I lost sight of the vision, right? And I'm bringing this up because a lot of us go through this. Like we have a goal. We have targets that we talk about. We talk about, we have our 12-week target, but let's just look at it like from this standpoint. Like we want to make a certain amount of money. But why? Like why start this industry? Like why get into the business of selling real estate? There's always a reason why. All right. There's always a reason why we started, a profession that we had started before. There's a reason why we got married, whatever it is, and with some kind of goal in mind, with some kind of target in mind. And to reach any kind of goal or target, right, we know that we need focus, right? We understand that. Focus, consciousness, right, where we grow, we learn, we grow. But I had this goal to really build this coaching program really up to where, we would have like 100 agents, and obviously making more money. And I got distracted. And for those of you guys who know, like back in 2018, 2019, I got distracted because the reality is I was avoiding the work that I know I needed to do. Right? There were a lot of things I knew I needed to do to really take this coaching program into another level, And if you look at the coaching program today, I mean, it pales in comparison, to what it was back then. I mean, we're just like dominant. We're killing. I think the council program, 4 weeks in, they're at 68 escrows, even more so now, right? Like the and in a tougher market, right? That's another thing. So back then I just got distracted. What did I do? I mean, the reality is I didn't want to build I was great with hustling. I was great with recruiting. I was great with having one-on-one conversations over and over and over again with brand new agents. But I avoided the work of creating these systems to go and leverage, to go and create a platform to where they could learn and where I wasn't the choke point. I became the choke point in the business, right? Then I became the choke point really in the brokerage, right? And I became so stressed out to where it was like, to try to recruit and to try to train and to try to have a conversation one-on-one with each individual agent was just a lot. So instead of working on creating an effective and efficient system, I just avoided it. I lost that tunnel vision. And then I had peripheral vision, right? For those of you who have astigmatism like me, like you can see really, from the side. And I got distracted. What did I do? I went into different consulting. And though I made a lot of money, I was hustling and I found myself in the same position. I found myself, making a lot of money. I found myself in the wrong environment around the wrong people, right? And I'm going to tell you, like, it's easy to get distracted. I went into a business like where it just seemed like I went into wholesaling then, right? I went into consulting with mortgage companies, did really good. I felt like I was, all right, I'm coaching for 4 hours a month, and they're paying me a minimum of 15 grand a month on top of whatever they're selling just for one coaching group. And then I had multiple coaching groups and then other companies as well. Like, it was great, but man, I felt lost. I was a lone ranger. The people that I were coaching, like, didn't show up. The people that I was coaching didn't listen. And it was almost like I was selling my soul for money. That's what it felt like. And I lost focus. That's the reality. I got distracted because I wanted to avoid the work that I knew I needed to do. And the term that we use here, the do the work, it's not just because it sounds cool. It's because it's the do the work specific work. And it's the work that we know that we're avoiding. And we know what we need to do, especially in this brokerage. Really, there's no excuse in this brokerage because we lay everything out. I think we're very open. I think we're very upfront with not hiding, the work that needs to be done. But we have to ask ourselves why. Like, why are we looking to the shiny object, right? The shiny object syndrome, right? Which is what I had. And I was making money. And then I was like, all right, Amazon automation. Luckily I didn't get into that, but went into the wholesaling and even did good at the wholesaling thing and built that up. But I'm going to tell you something. You're avoiding work the same way I was avoiding work because there's a fear, there's underlying fear. It could be knowing that you'll be great and having to step into that role. That's a scary thought. I mean, it's something that I still deal with. It's like, can I maintain, being great? I know I'm great. You know you're great. Can you maintain that for a long period of time? Can you trust yourself enough to wake up every day and do that work that you know is necessary? Right? There's a fear. It could be, again, like I said, the fear of you having to step into that role. It could be the fear of the fear of failing and thinking that, you don't have it in you. But at the end of the day, you have that choice whether you fail or you're going to learn. And I found myself as like sacrificing my soul for the money, sacrificing my soul for everything else wasn't worth it. And I found myself back here calling AZ up. And for a year, probably before I came back to go and coach, I was like, hey, we're going to work together again. It wasn't like, hey, let's go. It was like, dude, we're going to, and we both knew that, like in some capacity, right? Like we were talking about other things, that we were working on and whatnot, or that I was working on, and that's for the future. But like, I remember telling him, like, dude, we're going to work together. And it wasn't till I basically broke my back, like Mike Tyson, and broke my back. It wasn't until I broke my back, basically, where I came back in, for those of you guys have seen it, like with the cane, and like, all right, man, like, I don't know how, but like, we got to do this. We're going to work together. And I started showing up, right? Just making deposits to people who needed it and things like that. But guess what? I was healing myself. not just physically, but I was healing my soul, because this is exactly where I was supposed to be. And even though it's been less than a year now, or maybe just might have hit the year mark where I got back into the coaching, the difference from a year to go to now, my life is completely different. So is the coaching program. And that's just year one. So the challenges of what I know I need to be doing are still there, but it requires that tunnel vision. It requires that tunnel vision to just focus. And I'm saying this to you guys as well, not just the agents here at AZ and Associates, but those of you guys who are listening. You understand that there's some kind of a goal that you want, right? This is what I do. This is what AZ and I do as coaches and as trainers. Like, you join a program. You join this brokerage because you want to be better, a better version of you. For what? Why? Why does it even matter? It's because you want something. And you know that you don't have whatever it is that you're looking for to get yourself there. But I'm telling you right now, the pain of avoiding the work, the pain of like having that peripheral vision instead of the tunnel vision is just far greater, because you lose your soul and money. So we have to look at it from that perspective of, we have these goals because our soul tells us. I mean, it's somehow, some way related to our soul. I think most of us here aren't vain enough to just like, want cars or houses. Like, yeah, I want cars and houses too, but there's a reason for it. I want to be great. I don't want to be like, oh, the guy had potential. Man, you had potential. So let me get a couple people here. We got Pedro Soto. Good morning. Good morning. Leonard Rivera, Jasenia, Natasha. Good morning. Lorinda, Adriana, Christine, Brittany. All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. So anyway, guys, I wanted to share a little bit of my perspective here on, or my experiences here, both with the military, but also, my stuff here on the brokerage, here at the brokerage. So you guys understand. Listen, you guys are out there. I see you guys hustling. I see you guys grinding. I know the market is shifted, but the industry is about to shift as a whole. And I'm telling you right now, if you have the excuse of that it's just not a good market, that isn't going to work. That isn't going to work, because your goals and your targets and your vision has to be way stronger than the circumstances that are outside of you. So we have all the resources over here, and anything you guys need, I'm telling you right now, like, you guys have all the resources between AZ, myself, Carla, everyone here. So listen, guys, that's all I have for today for Mindset Mastery. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time, or you have AZ over here next time. Thanks again.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ and Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.